Tonight we're going to be, or I'm going to be sharing with you my love of painting on porcelain. And some people think of it as ceramic, some people think of it as porcelain. In particular, it is anything that is already baked and is shiny like this, with a few minor exceptions, and I'm going to show you those in just a little bit. But for instance, this is a little sugar caddy, especially when I'm over. Hey, Salmon's girl, welcome in and welcome in. Especially when I'm over at my local thrift stores. You find little things like this all the time that are, you know, $1.75. Sometimes I've found mugs for 50 cents or 25 cents. As a matter of fact, this is one of the mugs I got from my local thrift shop, my church thrift shop. And look at that. Look at that. See? So it was just a plain blue mug. And what did I do? I brought it home and I customized it with the paints I'm going to show you tonight. So isn't that fun? Oh my gosh. You know, a lot of people are into the dot art right now. And so I decided to do a dot art type of piece on here. Isn't that fun? Yeah, to do dot art, you have to use certain tools, which I have here somewhere on my desk, don't I? I should have them on my desk. Uh, I don't know. I have so many things. Oh, but you use dot art tools in order to be able to put the dots on there like that. So I'll show you how to do that later. I think I left them sitting on the floor because I had to clean my table off, and then sometimes things go missing when I clean the table off, right? But these are the paints that we're going to be using today. So you can see here, it's the Pebeo Paint Company. Here's they gave me an apron. Thank you, Pebeo. I do education for Pebeo all around the country. They sent me to Germany one year and where else? Canada. I've taught in Canada with Pebeo, just fabulous company. And so this is their Porcelain 150 paints, and that's what we're going to be using tonight. When we get to that part where I'm discussing the paints, I'll show you some of the different types of the Porcelain 150 paints that they have. But this is a tile. So if you could customize, for instance, your backsplash or something in your kitchen or your bathroom by just taking, this is a plain old white tile, but notice it has a shiny finish to it. So not the ones that are bisque. If you know what bisque is ceramic. This is what bisque looks like right here. See where anything you put on there would soak in, right? And you can put it on bisque, but the point is that if you were to take a piece of ceramic and then paint on it with your traditional ceramic paints, this is paints to use after the firing process. So if you were to paint something on here and want to stick it back in a kiln, this is not the paint for that. This is for after your piece is already fully fired. You're not going to be putting it in a kiln anymore. Then you're going to paint using these porcelain paints. Okay. So this is a tile that it's not finished on the back because, of course, you put glue on your wall and then you mount this on the wall onto the glue, right? So it needs to not be shiny and finished. But if you look at this side, it's a nice shiny tile. It just came from Lowe's or Home Depot, a place like that. And then you can see here, I painted on it with these porcelain paints from Pebeo. Now you'll see another one down here and it says Vitrea right here. So Pebeo has two lines of paint. This is for porcelain, this is for glass. But the fun thing is that you can use the glass paints on the porcelain and the porcelain paints on the glass. That's a trick, all right, that most people don't know. But the difference being that the paint for glass is more translucent and the paint for porcelain is more opaque. That's pretty much the difference. Although there are crossovers for both. So just know that if you have some of this Vitrea paint or you see some on sale, it's called Vitrea 160, okay? Where this is Porcelain 150. You can use them interchangeably, which is really terrific. Um, but here also, can you see the shimmer that's in there? You'll see shimmer. So some of these paints are pearlescent. They have shimmer, as well as you can also use um, uh, pearl. There's a color called pearl. So you can customize your colors with the color called pearl, which is really cool. Oh, something else about this, you'll notice, see those really tiny lines on there on this dragonfly? They are done with a marker. So the paints come in a pot like this, which are what's in this box. So this box right here has pots like this. So you see the, whoops, let me turn around so you can see the name, Porcelain150. That's what comes in. This happens to be a kit with six, is it six? Yeah, six different colors in it. And this is a what they call a discovery set. So let me show you inside the discovery set, because the sizes are a little bit smaller when you get the discovery sets, which makes them very economical to try. You know, I suggest you try with the discovery sets. And so they're little bottles like they see, they're just little bottles like that. Perfect to experiment with and start with. And then these are the full size bottles right here. So these are what, 20 milliliters, I think. Those are 20 milliliters. And then these are 45 milliliters. I forget how many colors it comes in, something like 68 colors, something like that. So there's plenty of range of colors. Not only that, you can mix them. So if there's a particular color that you want, let's say that you want a purple, you could take a red and a blue and mix them together, maybe add a little bit of white or add a little bit of pearlescent, and bam, you've got a purple. Okay, so um, easy peasy if you know a little bit about color theory, right? So that's the paint that's in the bottles. Then there's also paint that comes in a marker. So this is also the Porcelain150 right there, but it's in a pen. There are two different types of pens. So see how one has the white on it and one has the darker on it. This one, the Porcelain150 white on the top, it says 0.7. So that's a detail tip. And the detail tip is what I went in here, and you see those thin lines. I used a marker like this to put the thin lines, oops, like this one to put the thin lines in. Now, if I want to do thicker lines, then there's this pen, also Porcelain150, and it has a 1.2 millimeter bullet tip. So like your typical, what you would see in a normal marker is that little bullet tip, right? This is a fine tip. And so those are available to use on top of your work. A lot of times I like to outline with the markers, and there are many different colors of markers. So you don't have to use a dark color like these black. You might use a yellow if you're trying to create an outline for yourself and then work over top of it. Um, but there are many different colors of the outliners, the pens. And then there are these really cool tubes of dimensional paint. So where this goes on flat, these markers, you can create dimension with these paints that come out of a tube that say Porcelain150. So that is a gold one. Here's another one. So they come in, I think it's about 12 or 16 colors. Hi, River Phoenix. Welcome in over on Whatnot. And so there's some really fun colors that these come in for you to do detail work on your pieces. So let me show you on this one, where this one I left a bunch of white on the tile, right? For this one, which was exactly the same type of tile, I covered the whole thing. So you can see I even went into the background here and covered the background. And you see how glossy that is, the paint. So most of the paints are glossy, have a glossy finish in the porcelain line. However, there are some that have a matte finish. So I'll show you that in just a moment. But here, see those gold lines on there? If I hold it at an angle, I don't know if you can see, but they're textured. They're up off of the surface. So I did the painting, and then after the paint was dry, I went on with this tube and did some uh, textured work on top of that. And even here as well, there's a bunch of texture in the flower over here. And all that texture was done with these that sits up on top of the surface instead of a marker that's just like using paint, but in a marker form. So let me show you the matte finish. They are so beautiful. So this is a salt and pepper shaker set that I got that were plain white. I think I bought them at a Target or a Walmart or someplace like that, right? And I thought they were a really nice set and perfect for customizing. So here is, you see how this is shiny, but this is not shiny. So that is one of the matte paints in like a soft pink color. Let me see, do I have that here? Yeah. So let me show you real quick. This one that I showed you before that had the baby blue, right down here on the label, it says that it's brilliant or gloss right in this area. And the ones that are matte actually say right here, they say that they are matte so that you can differentiate between the glossy finish and the matte finish. So there aren't as many matte finish colors as there are gloss colors. Um, but I love the finish of the matte colors. Now this is about 3 coats because you're going to find that you do need to layer your coats of the colors. Oftentimes 1 coat is not enough. You're going to need to let that dry. Actually, I hit it with a heat gun real quick to get it to dry and set up, and then I will put my next layer. If you don't, if you don't set your layer in between, when you go to put a second layer on, that bottom layer will crack and crackle and come back up. And it's no fun. Then you have to wipe the whole thing off, right? But if you hit it with that heat gun, boom, then that sets it in place and you can go on it with another layer. And this gold is so pretty, right? The metallic right here. And you can either do that with a gold marker, or what I did is I used a brush. Hey, where's the gold? I don't know. It's in one of these jars over here. There it is. I used the gold bottle on a small brush and then put that on there. And you know what? It's hand done. It's not done by a machine. It's not done through a stencil. It's hand done. So I like artwork that's hand done to have a hand done finish. So for instance, if you look around the top here, and these lines, you see how the lines are not perfect? That's because I did it. I handmade it. And so you can tell that it's handmade as opposed to being machine made, that it's a custom design. I've actually made custom designs for family members. And I see Savannah over on YouTube said that she got a new dog, which is awesome. Congratulations. And I did a chip bowl and a like a dip, chip and tip, uh, chip and dip bowl set for my daughter. And I customized it with little doggy bones and wrote the names of the doggies on those pieces to customize a piece for my daughter. So if you have something like that, if you have a piece that is plain, you can go ahead and customize it like that to make it your own or to make it as a gift for somebody. Now, sometimes I like things that are very subtle. Most of the time, you all know me that I like things that Salmon's Girl said, "Ooh, good idea," right? For the customizing. Um, Sometimes I like things that are more subtle, although y'all who watch me often probably know me more for loving things that are more bright and in your face, right? But this I found again at my church thrift shop. I thought it was so pretty. It's a Martha Stewart soap dish, and it was completely white. But you see how I just added that, you know how I love this baby blue color right here? What color do they call it? Pastel blue. The name is on the side. And So I took that pastel blue and I went around the edge, and then I touched a little bit of it on the top of each one of those little knobs. And it looks like it came that way. Hey, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it over on Whatnot. Um, so you can do something super simple like this. And remember, you don't even have to do it on white, like this mug right here that was blue. Thank you, Salmon's Girl, for sharing. So the mug that's blue, look at all the beautiful color that I was able to put on that. And this one happens to be white, but you could customize it no matter what color it was. And if there's already porcelain, a design that's already baked into it, as long as you've got the finished surface here and it's not going back in a kiln anywhere, you can use these paints to go right over top of whatever's there and maybe do more details on top of what's already there. So you can get as simple as you want or as like wild and crazy as you want with it. Now, another piece that I did, so that was the simple dimple. And then this is one that's a lot more complicated, right? And actually on Whatnot, I have a project. And the project, hold on one second. I've got folks that are putting comments on YouTube that have nothing to do with the show. So if you do that, I am going to delete the comment. Although I see somebody's writing in what looks like Russian and I don't read Russian. So, but here is one where I took my time and I did layers of painting. And then you see the red right here on this mug. That red is from one of these tubes. So it actually is raised up off the surface there. And then these were little dabs of green. And then I went back with the marker and I used the marker to do all the detail on there. And then this is actually chalkboard paint. So yes, one of the colors is chalkboard black, it's called, that you can get. And so I can write on this. Let's say that this was my kids' mug and I wanted to write them different messages each morning on there. Then I could do that. I could customize this just by using some chalk and write right on top of this surface. Isn't that fun? And then go over it with marker. And this is a Q-tip. I like to put the paint on a Q-tip and then make these little dots like this and little dots like that. So this one is more over the top, right? I put a lot more work into it. But fun. I love it. I love it. And once you have painted your items, you're going to leave them, you're going to set them aside for 3 days to dry, to fully dry, because when I work with these plates, I do many layers. I'll usually do 3 to 5 layers. And so, especially when you're using the paint that is thick, so this coming out of the tube is a thicker paint, right? Do you see how right here, it's coming up off of the surface and it's thicker. So you need to give it plenty of time to dry. If you don't, I'll tell you from experience, if you bake it, because that's what you do with these after you let them dry for 3 days, you just bake them in a home oven. It's not, it's like 325 or something. And the information is on the packaging. It tells you, so you're going to put it in the oven, then you're going to turn the oven on. You run it for the period of time that they tell you to run it, and then you turn the oven off and you leave it in the oven for the time when it's doing that, when it's heating. And then you let it cool down completely. That's true of both the ceramic or porcelain items and glass items if you're doing this kind of painting on glass as well. And so once it cools down, then you can pull it out. Actually, what I do sometimes is I will do a couple of layers, put it in the oven, bake it so those layers are set, after I've given it 3 days to dry. And then I'll come back and I'll put maybe another 1 or 2 accent layers on top, let that dry a couple days and stick that in the oven again. So sometimes I'm baking them a couple of different times in order to set those layers. But in between, you can see this has several layers on top of the leaf here. In between those layers, I hit it with a heat gun in order to set the bottom layer before I put the next layer on. Okay. Now, I also love to use this paint for repairs. If you're on Whatnot and you love, for instance, the salt and pepper shaker sets, the antique ones, the vintage ones, you see these little lemons right here? Oh my gosh, they're so cute, right? But there's some paint missing on it. There's some paint missing over here. There's some paint missing right here. I can repair those using this porcelain paint. Isn't that awesome? Now, if there's like, see, there's a little cork in this one, or maybe there's a little plastic or rubber plug, you want to pull that out before you bake them in the oven. Okay. Um, but I would do my color repairs and then pull that out, stick it in the oven, bake it for the time it says on the instructions. And then when it comes back out, now I can sell these. This is a salt and pepper shaker that are so cute, right? They're little, are they little pineapples or little lemons? It's, I don't know. It looks like they're little pineapples. But then that way I'll have taken something that I picked up for very little money. I'll repair it and then I'll put it back up for sale saying that they are, they've been repaired, but that's okay. If they look authentic, they are authentic actually. They're not reproductions, they're the real thing. They're just fixed. And you can do that with the porcelain paints. Awesome. I love doing that. I love taking things that are like giveaways, castaways, and fixing them so that they can be useful again, right? And that's what I did with this teapot. So if you were looking at some of my social media, you saw this teapot. It's a ceramic teapot. All of this paint I put on there. So when I got it at the thrift store for $1, it had this, you see the cream colored lid? It had a cream colored lid and a green teapot. Bizarre, right? So I decided to paint with the porcelain paint, the teapot. And you can see that it's a multi-layer design, right? And then there's also some gold 3D that I put on there. Oh, thank you, Flower Gazer. Says, I love this. And thanks, Dawn's keepsakes. Welcome in. So I took this lid and what I did was use the colors of the paint that are in here, right? To customize the lid so that it all goes together. And now it all matches because I took white dots because the lid is white and I put white dots on the body here. And now everything matches together and it's a beautiful customized little teapot. Isn't that fun? Yeah, so fun. Thanks for being here to share with me. To let me share with you. Oh, it's so fun. Now, here's something interesting. Sometimes you're given things. Like I bought a bunch of stuff from Utrecht when I not Utrecht, Uline when I was moving, right? Moving supplies. And so what did they do? They gave me a big old mug. See where it says Uline? And I'm like, I can take that mug and I can paint right over top of where it says Uline and I can customize it and make it my own. So that's what I started doing here. Is I covered over everywhere where it said Uline first with a layer of white because what? This is white, right? So I covered it over first with a layer of white. Then I put 2 layers of orange and I baked it. And that way this color in the background is already set. And now I can go right on top of it. This is the 3D gold that I showed you earlier. And then some of the paint colors here and I can customize this mug now so it's not going to say Uline on it anymore. It'll have my designs on it. Love it. And then you can go and sell your custom designs and nobody knows that you got the mug for free from Uline, right? Oh, let me see what else I have here in front of me. Something that I use a lot when I'm working with these paints is I'll use a sponge. So I buy just cheapo, like super, super cheap, right? You go to the dollar store or something the cheap cellulose sponges, and then I cut them into small pieces like this. And then they are terrific for being able to, especially if, let's say, I'm doing a wave. I've done this in order to get the feel of spray on the top of a wave. Then I use the sponge and I dip it in the paint, and then I just sponge it on with these paints, and it'll give me like the mist of a wave, something like that. You can do that with acrylic paints too. But this is a trick that I used with these particular paints as well. And something else we're going to be using is you just need some sort of plate or little palette. This is a throwaway plastic plate that I'm going to use to mix my colors on. You'll need some sort of brush. So this is a Pebeo brush that they had given me, and I use the larger sizes and the smaller sizes, another Pebeo brush. So this one is small. You want when you're doing these paintings, you want a brush that, a synthetic brush really is better, that has some stiffness to it. Okay. That's what I find works better for me with these. You also might want some stir sticks. I either use, because before you use these paints, you need to stir them to be sure that they're, everything, all the color is stirred up. And I'll either use my favorite are these coffee sticks, but in a pinch, I just use the back end of my brush, right? And then I take some of the paint and I deposit it onto here and then wipe this off. And we're going to use some tape, some, what's this called? Painter's tape, right? Because when we do a mug, this is what we do. So you see where I started a mug here, but you're going to tape around the top like this. And the reason for that is you don't want the paint in an area where you're going to be putting your mouth and your teeth. Because since this is not kiln baked onto the surface, it's just surface baked in the oven, there's a possibility that if you hit it with your tooth or you hit it with a knife, say on a plate, that it would chip. So you don't want it chipping, you don't want the paint to chip off. So you make sure that you put tape in an area to remind you not to paint all the way up there. All right. When I did this one, I was made sure that if I drank from this side, there was no paint. And if I drank from this side right here, there was no paint. Okay, so that is important. If you're going to do a plate, like maybe you want to do custom plates, if it's a plate that you want to serve food on or eat on, only do around the outside. Because again, if you're using a fork or a spoon or a knife on it, it over time it could come off. The paint could come off. What I do though is I like to paint a plate that becomes a piece of artwork. So, for instance, my flamingo here, since I live in Florida. So, this is painted on a plate, but this is not something that you would use to eat off of. It's strictly for decoration. So, if you put your paint in the middle here, you would only use that plate for decoration. You wouldn't use it for food. Now, this I would also bake in the oven. So I've done many layers, and you bake it in the oven, and then it's ready to go as a decorative item. This plate I got for 25 cents at my local thrift shop. So it's just a plain white, right? Just a plain white plate. They don't even, they like just want to get rid of them, right? 25 cents. Look at what you can do with it. Now, if I wanted to make a decorative plate that you could eat off of, I would just go around the edge here and I would paint a design just around the edge and leave the center. Once these have been baked, you can put them in the dishwasher. So they are dishwasher safe after they've been fully set in the oven. However, I noticed because I gave a gift to my parents, I made my parents some mugs. So I gave them a grandma mug and a grandpa mug, and they're painted with these paints. But what I noticed is that if you are only using the marker, if you're using the marker like this, and it goes through the dishwasher, this went through the dishwasher for about 2 years. The area, see the little dots right here? Some of the dots are coming off. And that's because it was just the marker, no other paint. The paint that came out of the bottle like this, fine. Nothing. Now there was a little bit right here. See that right there? And just a tiny bit up here. So I just wanted to make you aware of the instructions say that they're dishwasher safe, but over time, a little bit of it, like here, was done with the pen. It says she's a gem. And after 2 years of going in and out of the dishwasher, a little bit of that is coming off. Okay. The way that I fix that is I put down a clear, see this where it says glossy medium? If you put glossy medium down first, and then you hit it with your heat gun to set it, then you can go on with the marker. And when you bake it, it will stay. So that's the trick that I've learned over the years of working with the paints is if you want an area where you just want to put the marker like here, but it's beginning to wear off from having gone through the dishwasher, just paint it first with the gloss medium and let it dry and then hit it with a heat gun and then use the marker on it. And when you bake it, they will fuse together those layers and then you won't have the dishwasher trying to take it off. Okay. Let me see. That's so much fun with all of these. All right. I think are we done? Are we done with all of the goodies that we're going to use? Oh, let me share with you some inspiration. These are some people that are amazing in what they do on porcelain items. And the first one I was introduced to by Pebeo, um, and it is the Crazy Plate Lady. So here, the Crazy Plate Lady, and I will put links to there's these two artists in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight or tomorrow. So you can go and find them on Instagram. This is the Crazy Plate Lady on Instagram, and she is Jacqueline Pour. I don't know how you say that. It's French. Pourrier. There you go. She does a lot of custom plates for people, commissions, as well as she does series of plates for hotels up. I think she's in the Toronto area. But here is a picture of some of her. There she is working on a plate. See the doggy? Oh my gosh, isn't that cute? So that's done using these exact paints. Here are some buildings. She did a whole series of buildings in downtown, I think it was Toronto. Amazing. And so I definitely highly recommend that you take a look at her page. And then this is Value Colores. Value Colores, they're based in Santiago, Chile. And here is some of her work. There she is working. These are all those little bottles right there, working on a plate. She loves to do teacups and teapots. So there's a teapot that she did. Isn't that just adorable? And then here is what is that? A teapot and sugar right there with some of her characters. Actually, I found it funny because on her on this right here, it says no portraits. She's like, I don't like to do portraits. Don't ask me to do portraits. Where the Crazy Plate Lady, holy cow, she does lots of commissions of photographs of people and stuff. So she does do portraits. But this lady, no portraits. She just likes to have fun. So here's a massive mug right here. Here is, so you can take whatever your creative bent is, whatever you like to paint, and you can put it on these different items. So here is butter and gravy or sugar right here. And then I found this very interesting. I did not realize that you can put these paints on tin. So as long as it's enamel glazed, so this is a teapot and a teacup, they're both enamel glazed. So they're finished. They're not going to be going in a kiln anymore. And then she used these paints to paint right on top of those. So I thought that was really cool. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I could paint on tin as well. So oof, there's another surface for me, right? And for you, if you maybe you have some already and you want to paint on those, um, let me show you one more accessory that I think is really important. If you're going to be using tubes, these tubes come with a little tip and there's a hole in the tip here. But sometimes once you've used it, the hole in it gets clogged. Now you can use a pin and put the pin through it, but oftentimes I just don't like to wait. So you can buy a set like this of just the tips. And that way, the replacement tips. So what I do is I would take this tip off if I can't get anything through it. I would throw it in a glass of water because this paint will dissolve in water and then clean it out later. But in the meantime, I just put a fresh tip on it and then I can just keep going, right? Because who likes to wait? I don't like to wait. I hate to wait. All right. I think it's finally time we can go over top of the table and actually do something. Oh, one more thing before we do that, and that is Corelle ware. So these are what I've shown you so far are different types of ceramic stoneware, it might be called. Um, Corelle, which is a very big brand, and we have a lot of it in the United States. Um, they make stoneware. So this is a Corelle. Underneath here, it says Corelle stoneware. This is okay to do this painting on. However, there's other Corelle ware that is not okay to do this paint on. It will not stick. And those are these kind of Corelle ware. And so you can see on the back here, it says Corelle, right? The difference is this, it looks like milky glass. It's borosilicate glass. And this borosilicate glass is made to be easy to clean and it's fabulous. I love my Corelle dishes. However, the glass ones, even though these paints can work on regular glass, so for instance, glass like this, it won't work on the borosilicate glass. Okay. So, um, you might look at it and think, well, it's white and it looks like ceramic, right? But it's not. It's actually a special type of glass. It's like made for the space program, right? And so if you see a label that looks like this, it's Corelle and it looks and sounds, let's see that, it sounds like glass, then don't paint on this with these paints. However, you absolutely can paint on these Corelle glasses or mugs as long as they say that they are stoneware on the back. Okay. So that's just a little detail for you. Hey there, Asif over on YouTube. Welcome in to the stream. All right. So let's go ahead over top of the table and get mixing some colors and have some fun, right? Do some painting. Okay, something that is a fun technique is yes, you can put these paints through a stencil. And so what I wanted to show you here was I put some colors in the background with a brush on this plate. And then this sort of peachy color is through a stencil. So to do it through a stencil, to use these paints through a stencil, you just use a stencil brush. So if you're familiar with that, I'm looking for one right here. A stencil brush looks like this and it's flat on the top. So I can pick up the paint and hold the stencil and put the paint like this, just tap, 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 tap through the stencil. And then yes, you can stencil with the paints. They're thick enough to be able to stencil with them. Let's see what we're going to paint. Now I have this mug and I already started, I taped it up. So what I had shown you earlier was on this mug that I made. I put on the back the chalkboard paint. So one of the paints that's available in this line is a chalkboard paint. You just have to tape off the area and then you can put your paint in there. Or this is actually a shimmer paint. And this is only, I think this is 2 coats. So I'm going to show you that up close real quick because I want you to see that if you want to create a little space to work on and then do your design on top of it or coming off the side or something, you can tape it with just your regular painter's tape like this. And then here you can see I have 2 coats on already, but I'm not sure if you can see that in the light, but it hasn't fully covered it yet. It's going to need at least 1 more coat, if not 2 more coats, in order to fully cover it. And then I can take this off and work on there. So why don't we start by doing that? We'll start by putting the next coat on there. So hold on just a moment. I have to put these plates away. Okay. And so on the mug, what color do we want? I was working with a blue. So for instance, this says sapphire blue and it's pretty dark. It looks like I was trying to create some drama here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, you see the blue on the top of the lid right here? What I do, what's helpful is I take my paints, and this is just like a dog food lid or a lid to a box of some sort. Let's say that you got a shipment of paper for your printer and it has a box lid like this. Then I just throw all my paints in here, and to know what colors they are, I put a little dab of paint on the top. So that helps me to know what my colors are just at a glance across the top. Like this one is sort of a corally red. So you see there's a little coral in the top there. And I find that helps so that I know what I have. All right, so we're gonna do this dramatic sapphire blue. And this paint's gonna be pretty thick. Let me start with, yeah, I'm looking for the brush that I want to use. What size brush? Let's use this one right here. So I like to use the synthetic brushes. I showed that earlier, but I like to use the brushes that have the synthetic hair for this. And just like any other um, time that I'm painting, let me just move this out of the way for a moment. Any other time that I'm painting, I like to get my brush damp to start with. So I'm going to just take some water like this and make sure the top of the brush is damp and squeeze a lot of the water out. I just want it damp. I don't want it to be sopping, soaking wet. Now, I said earlier you want to mix the paint before you work with it. So I'm going to just take a stick like this. You want to make sure that all of the color is what we call homogeneous, like this. And when I put the paint out, if it looks too thick, like this looks perfect right out of the container. But if for some reason I wanted a thinner layer, let's say I wanted something translucent, then I could use a thinner. And right here, I have a thinner. So yes, you can use water as a thinner, but what I find is as your paints get older and they get thicker, if you put too much water in it, it doesn't stick well. It won't stay as well after you bake it on your surface. So my suggestion is that you buy a thinner, and then that way you can use the thinner to make the paint thinner, and it's the same medium, and it'll ensure that it'll stick to the surface, okay? So let's take this. I'm going to need a lot more than that, aren't I? So let me just pour a little bit out here. Oh, lovely, lovely. It almost has a liquid enamel look to the paint when you're pouring it. So cool. All right, so we're going to look at, this is a transparent color. Can you see the transparency through the clear glass? Let me see, maybe you can see it better there. Okay, so I'm just going to paint this on. here. Now, in general, you will see brush strokes. The brush strokes sort of settle down as it settles, but if you want less brush strokes, then use the thinner. Okay, the thinner will help you to get less brush strokes. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. There's a little bit in the way of bubbles there. If you want to get rid of the bubbles, this is rubbing alcohol. So similar to resin, if you want to get bubbles out of resin, you spray a little bit of alcohol on it. So here, I just want to make sure I have a little mist of alcohol. So this is just rubbing alcohol in here. And I'm just going to spray a tiny bit, not too much, and that will pop the bubbles. So I don't know if you can see that, but it popped all the bubbles. It's awesome. Awesome. Love it. Okay. So let's, while that is now, let's speed the drying of that. So I have my heat tool right here, and I'm just going to warm it up, and that will start it drying. I'm sort of setting it. And then I am going to set it aside and we're going to work on something else. And then we'll come back to it. Nice. Like I can see that that blue is transparent. So the color underneath, it's still not quite to my liking. Okay. So that's why I said sometimes you've got quite a few layers on there. Okay. So we're going to set that one aside. Let's see. What's the next thing? Um, Maybe I want to work on this lid. So this is the lid to the sugar bowl, right? And now what I do usually is I will clean this off. I want to be sure that it doesn't have a lot of grease from my hands on it. This is just water. So I'm just going to do that and use a paper towel. So you do want to work on top of a clean surface, okay? Usually I will take my items to the sink. I'll wash them with soap, right? I don't worry too much about just a little bit of oil from my hands. As long as my hands are clean, I'm pretty much okay. Okay, so let's do that. And then we have this color out here. So let us do, I think I'll do the top here. And I'm going to show you this like incredible, gorgeous blue. This is called sapphire blue. So I'm just getting the top of it, hitting the top of it. Do you see that? Do you see the brush strokes in it? So it is going to take a couple of layers to get it to the point where you don't see the brush strokes. So let me do it. I'm just doing it a little bit around here to try to get it somewhat even around the edge. But like I said, remember, this is hand painted, so it's okay. It's okay if it's not perfect. It is a-okay. There you go. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to do some more. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun real quick, just to start the process of drying. Now let's say that I got paint in an area where I didn't want it. What if I think, oh, it went a little too far down on the edge right here? Well, I can take a brush. I have little detail brushes. So let me take a little detail brush like this. See how it's small? And then I can, while it's still, before it's set, I can use a little bit of water. Let's see if the water will take it off. But if the water doesn't take it off, see, because I heated it, it's already not coming off. But if I take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and I put it in a cup, before it's baked, you can pull it off. Even if it's 5 layers deep, it doesn't matter. If you've only just lightly hit it with the heat gun, then you can take it off with alcohol. So here's some alcohol in there, just rubbing alcohol. Okay, I'll show you. This is just what you would get at the grocery store or the pharmacy. It says rubbing alcohol, 70% isopropyl, nothing fancy. Easy peasy. And so I'll just get a little bit of that on my brush, and then I can come in here, and if it's already somewhat set, I can begin to lift it. It's lifting right off for me. Nice. So this is how you can go back and perfect your lines or your design. Is that cool? Just a little bit of rubbing alcohol. It's awesome. If I was like, ooh, that whole lid is like, oh, I don't like it. Remember, you need to build the layers. So if you look at that first layer, you can see a lot of brush strokes and it's very translucent, right? So sometimes you do need to put multiple layers on, but just using that alcohol, I was able to fix the edges right here. Super easy. Just that little bit of alcohol. Once you bake it, the alcohol won't work anymore. But before it's baked, the alcohol will work. That is the trick with these paints. But you definitely, if I tried putting another layer on this right now, it would just uh, start to come up. That layer that's already on there would start to crack and come off. You don't want that. You want a nice clean layers. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to get that nice and clean. So what you want when you have a cleanup brush, what I call a cleanup brush, you want the cleanup brush to be, usually I use either a flat top or a, like see how this one is, this is stiff. So if it's a little bit stiff like that, it makes it a lot easier to get in there. And if it's either flat on the top or if it's angled. Sometimes I'll use the angle brush to do that, but that helps you to clean up those edges using alcohol. Okay, so let's, and since it's just alcohol, I can also rinse that in the water, right? It's not going to hurt it any at all. And that's ready for me to use for another cleanup, right? Oh, I just, that color is just so beautiful, isn't it? Just so beautiful. All right, let's try, um, let's see. I'm wondering what, if there is another, besides the pink, which is matte. I know there are other matte colors in here. So I'm just looking for another nice matte color that we can put on the bottom there. See, I have just, I have a lot of paint colors here. There's the chalkboard. So you can see that one that I had told you about earlier. It says chalkboard black. Okay. Oh, this is matte white, but that's not really going to do anything for me. Although, yes, I love the blue, right, Flower Gazer? So here I've got matte white. So what I can do is get sort of a semi-gloss by doing what? I can put this here. I can just pour some of that white in there. This is a matte white. And it doesn't make sense for me to put a matte white on top of here unless I just want it to look matte, right? But I can take some of that blue and with a different brush. Nope, I want a brush that's flat across the top. Okay, I'm looking for another one that might be the right size. This is a beautiful blue. Yeah, it's called sapphire blue. It makes sense, right? Makes total sense. Okay, see, this is called a bright. This shape, um, well, they call it a chisel blender, but it's flat across the top right there, right? So that way I can get a little more control. So let's take some of this glossy blue and I'm just going to put it right in with the matte. So that we get a baby blue, right? Lovely. And that because I'm using mostly the matte white, the baby blue will likely be matte. They'll either be matte or semi gloss. Now I'm seeing I'm getting a lot of bubbles in here. So I can either let it sit for a minute and have the bubbles go out, or of course, if there are bubbles on here, I can just go right and spray it with the alcohol and that'll take care of that. So let's use the baby blue. So now what I have is a baby blue that's just like the this one right here, right? That comes already pre-mixed, but this is a gloss baby blue, and I wanted a matte baby blue. So I just use the matte white, and then that way I can do get a matte baby blue. But I wanted to share this workshop with you because I've had people before say, "Oh, I got those paints and they didn't work for me." And it's like, "Oh my gosh." The trick is you must layer. If you don't layer, you're not going to get the look that you're going that, you know, those beautiful pieces that you see that other people are doing. You're not going to get that effect. And that's because you haven't layered. You must layer. Okay. So don't be disappointed. Like this first layer that I'm doing of the blue, the baby blue, it's like, man, that doesn't look very good. But that's the point is just keep it up, keep layering, and then it's going to look amazing. So let's keep going with the baby blue. Ah, ah, I'm getting it on me, of course. Now, what I'm not doing is I'm not putting it underneath here because why? When this is used from a practical standpoint and it's going in and out and in and out of the base, if I paint it underneath here, it could crack off. Okay. I don't want that. So I'm keeping it away from an area where there might be a lot of opportunity for it to get hit. I don't want it to get hit. So I'm only bringing it down to the edge. And you don't have to worry about the edge being perfect either, because you can always come back later and use a marker on the edge, right? If you want to pretty up the edges, you can just use a marker and that'll pretty up the edges. So here I'm just going around the edge a little bit to kind of get it even. So I'm going to show you, when you look at this, you're going to go, ooh, Tristina, that doesn't look very good. That doesn't look very good. Can you see that? Can you see where it's very translucent? You can see through it. You can see the lines from the brush. It looks a little lumpy. That's because it's only the first coat, y'all. Just have patience, Padawan, right? Anybody else who likes Star Wars, have patience. And if the edges aren't exactly like you want them, then I can try to use a little bit of water. And if the water doesn't work because it's too dry, then I'll just use a little bit of alcohol. So here, I'm just trying to get that up. It doesn't want to move. Ooh, another thing that I do sometimes, if it's already begun to solidify, is I will use this is a blade. I'll use a little blade because since this is glossy and smooth, I can just come in here with a blade and it will just shave right off. Isn't that awesome? Just like that. There was a little bit where it went over top. And so here, same here. I'm just going to come in with a blade. I'm going to use the blade to shave that edge to put it where I want it. Right? These are the tricks that you come here for. These are the things that, you know, are not inherent just by looking at the box. They're not going to tell you that. They are not going to tell you what I'm showing you right now. Use either the alcohol on a little brush or you use a blade and you can just adjust it. You can cut it. Now the blade, like I'm seeing, because some of this is already partly dry, it's kind of it's it's chunking off, but that's okay because what? This is only the first layer. So don't go too crazy, but just if you want to keep it a little bit clean, that's how you do it. This is whack. I hope that means whack as in good. I see the comment over on YouTube. Oh, okay. So you'll notice as it's drying, do you see how it has more of a matte finish to it here? And this has that beautiful glossy finish to it. Unbelievable. Okay, this one is dry enough. Let me just hit this whole thing with the heat gun again. So the heat gun, when in this process, the heat gun is your friend. Oh, show. Okay, we'll get that going. Look at that. Lovely. Okay, now let me come back to this one. Now, what I do too is if I have to leave this for a few minutes, I'll take water and I will just spray this boop, with a little mist of water just to sort of seal and keep it moist. Okay, let's do this again. Oh, there goes my heat gun. Okay, now you're beginning to see like, whoa, that deep sapphire color coming up. This is coat number 2 on the lid here. Look at the difference here. Can you see the difference between the second coat and the first coat? That first coat was so light, and the second coat is really more of a gem-like, right? It's giving you more of the sapphire look. If you decide, oh man, I really like that first sort of very light color that was on there, better than this like super deep color, what do? You can maintain that really light color just by adding thinner, right? So I would take my thinner, which looks sort of milky, and I would add it to this uh, sapphire. And when I add it to the sapphire, it'll thin it out and give you a more translucent color. So it'll give you that lighter azure blue instead of beginning to get this darker blue, right? That you can see here because we're layering it. So now we're starting to get that darker blue show up. Lovely, lovely. Okay, now it is, I have a bunch of bits underneath here. Come on, bits. I'm going to use the alcohol real quick, like on the areas that I need to clean up. Y'all know the cleanup song, right? Was that from, who was it? Barney? Was it Barney that the cleanup song came from? Or was that from something else? That's what I remember it from anyway. It might have been, the song might have been invented before that, but I read a post on social media this week and it was so funny because it was saying that somebody mentioned that they had seen it in a, they had seen somebody say in one of their posts something about the cleanup song. And this person said, I'm like 30 years old. And immediately the whole song came to my brain. And I was like, I know, right? It's so catchy, the cleanup song. So it's definitely a good idea to do the cleanup as you're doing the painting because it is a lot harder. The more layers you get on there, it's a lot harder to get the cleanup to go exactly the way you want it. What happens is the layers begin to attach to each other. And when you start to do the cleanup, you can get chunks of the paint come off. And then you have to take it all off and start all over again, which is annoying, but you know, it depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. Oh, if you'll do that or not. Like I could take all of this off of the top right now just by using alcohol on my paper towel and just go broop and take it all off. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Yep, so I can see it needs some more cleanup around here, but it's painful to wait. I know, I know. So let me get some of this. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm cleaning up right along the edge underneath here, cleaning that edge. So don't worry when you first put the paint on, don't worry about having to get it perfect because you can just come back with this little bit of rubbing alcohol and do your cleanup. right like that, and get a much cleaner edge. And then I'm going to take the paper towel here and get up underneath there. So anything that's still liquefied, I can pull it off of there. A little bit more, a little bit more. Okay. I can see a little bit more along the edge there. So this may be off camera, but I have my paper towel here. And so I'm using it to tap and then come around here. And coming in with the paper towel and taking more of that off. Okay, so that's kind of how you can do that. Now I noticed that this area right here was not dry. I got a little bit of alcohol on there, but you know what? I'm not really worried about it. I'm just smoothing it a little bit and I'll just put more paint there, right? When I go for my next layer. So here's the next layer. I'm just going to layer it right over top of that little spot right there because the rest of it was dry enough. I'm making a mess. It's okay to be messy when you do this because what? It's custom made, right? It's being custom made. If somebody wants perfection, they can get it from a machine. That's when you use your CAD CAM programs or your Procreate and you design something, right? That's not one that's done with a paintbrush by hand. Okay, this is what, layer 2. All right, now we're beginning to get more of an opaque color there. All right. Now, can you see the little sort of heart that's right there? Hey, Handcraft Love, welcome in over on Whatnot. There's a little, it looks like a little L right there. That's where I had accidentally gotten some of the alcohol and it took that first layer off. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to dab and go a little bit heavier in that area so it can sort of fill that in. And what layer are we on? Layer 2, right? Layer 2. Now I'm going to go around the edge here. Just make sure I sort of even it up along the edge. Like that. I can see, now I can see down in the edge right there where the handle and the base meet that I'm not getting a very clean line. I actually have quite a mess. So I will go in as I'm working and where there's a big mess here, I will work to clean this up with what? The little detail brush and the alcohol. The alcohol. Hey, stay home to shop. Thanks for letting people know on YouTube. Thanks for visiting me on YouTube and letting people know that if they use the QR code at the top of the screen or they go into the description of the video on YouTube and click the link and they come over to Whatnot, they can get $15 to spend on the platform on Whatnot if they're new to Whatnot. Thanks, stay home to shop. Okay, so again, I'm doing some cleanup. Cleanup on aisle 9. You see that right there? Right in there. I have a big blob mess right there. But just take my brush with a little bit of alcohol on it. And come in here and just clean it up. Cool. Just like that. Oh, life is good. Life is good. Life is good. So this is what I would do is just keep going around, putting more layers on, cleaning it up, cleaning it up. Oh, let's see, there's a little bit of overrun again over here. Now, what I did on the teapot that I have is after I did all of the painting on the lid. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. I cleaned up the edge at the base. So the base right here, I cleaned it up by using one of these tubes, by using the tube like this, so that I could take this precise tip right here and get right down in there and just do a line. So let me show you right here. Do you see how I painted this? I did 3 or 4 coats. I think I did 4 coats of the orange on there. And then I took this gold and I went right around here and let that dry, and then did right around here again. Okay, so I did 2 layers of this 3D paint right around the base, and that cleaned up that edge. So I didn't have to, be too crazy about the cleanup. That's one way. Or of course, you can also use a marker and go around it with one of the markers and create a line, and that'll also clean it up. Or if you prefer to not have a line like that, you can just use your brush with a little bit of alcohol and go around there and clean it up. There we go. It's, it's almost clean, almost clean. I really suggest that you use the alcohol first before it dries, because like I said, after it dries, after the paint dries, that layer, often what you get is, as you're cleaning it, you get it to chunk off instead of getting a nice clean line like we're doing now. Okay, like this. There we go. Lovely. So that was the second coat there and the second coat there, right? Now, where's my heat gun fell. Ah, see, I can't, how am I going to hold this? Okay, I can hold it like that. I don't want to put my fingers again in the paint, right? So I like that this has a little lip because it makes it easy to hold. So here we go. I'm going to hit it with the heat gun again. So the way that you get this smooth on top, you see how with the matte, you can see the brush lines, but here with the gloss, you don't see the brush lines. If I want the matte layer to not have all those brush lines, then I would just add a little bit of thinner to it, right? And the thinner will help it to flow and give me more of a smooth surface. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's so fun. Fun, 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 fun. Okay, we're gonna do one more layer on the top here of this, right here, right across the top. So then we're gonna have this beautiful sapphire, dark sapphire blue. Lovely. Just like that. Now I can feel that this is beginning to get dry. It's beginning to, as I'm painting with it, it's starting to stick. And I can see the more of the brush lines. So if I want it to flow more, I would use a little bit of the thinner, which is right here, which I'm going to do because we're going to put a second layer on this one, right? That we started earlier. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm actually going to take a little cup like this and I'm going to set it on the cup so that it's easy for me to pick it back up, right? Okay, we can do it. Let's try not to mess it all up. Is it going to sit on there? No, I have to turn it upside down. There, now it'll sit on there. Yay! It's sitting, it's sitting, it's sitting. Let me hit it with the heat gun real quick so that I can get that. But now, can you see now how the top is giving you that dark, rich sapphire look to it? Yeah. And then the rest of the lid has that matte finish to it. Okay, cool. You don't need to do it enough to bake it. You just need to do it enough to get it going, set it. So let's put a little bit of thinner here. And I'm just going to pour a little bit. Oops, Let me make sure that I've mixed this well to start with. So this is the thinner because I can feel this is beginning to go dry. So let's put a little bit of thinner out there and mix that in there really well. There we go. Nice. So it's sort of rehydrating the color, but it's also thinning the color out, making it a little more transparent, translucent, but it extends the paint, which is great. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this one because this is fully dry. This is what we started with earlier, right? We're just putting one more coat on there. Fun. Okay, good. And I see lots of bubbles. A little bit more this way. Interesting. Okay. I see bubbles. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take my alcohol. Let's move the paint out of the way. I'm going to take the alcohol and at a distance, I'm just going to give it a light mist. And that makes the bubbles break. Isn't that amazing? Ah, you can do the same thing with resin, by the way. If you're working with resin and you get bubbles in the resin, just spray the surface with alcohol. And the alcohol, what the alcohol does is it evaporates very quickly. And when it evaporates, it causes the bubbles to burst. So there we go. That's good. Let's hit that with a heat gun. Ah, there we go. And that's just to get the drying process started. Lovely, 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 lovely. We're going to let this dry just a little bit more, and then we're going to take this off so that we can paint over top of that. Ooh, fantastic. There we go. Ugh. If you weren't here earlier, I put tape. You have international fans on YouTube. Yes, yes, I do. Thanks, Stay Home to Shop over on Whatnot. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Thanks for popping over there to YouTube. I appreciate that you let people know that they can come over to the Whatnot show and then they have access to the store, to the shop. Okay, so we're going to leave this to dry just another minute. Okay. What we're going to do with this is something similar to this. Do you see the 3D effect there? And like the little flowers and things, so pretty. But what I had mentioned earlier is that I put tape along the top here because that's the area where your teeth are going to be when you're drinking your tea. You want to be sure there's no paint in the area where your teeth are going to go, okay? Because you don't want your teeth to chip off any of the paint. Even after it's baked, there's still the possibility that if you whack it too hard, you can chip the paint off, okay? So we're gonna set that back aside right there. And we're gonna come back to this. Ooh, so this is almost dry. I can see a tiny little bit still wet there. So let me just grab the heat gun. There we go. And I think what we'll do is use a sponge and put like a sponge finish on this, which will be kind of fun, right? And then you'll be able to see how to use the sponge. Oh, and let's get the top too. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Like I said, I could do this whole lid and then say, I don't like it, and take it all off. It could have 5 or 10 layers of paint on it. I could just use alcohol and take it all off. Take it all off before it's been set, which is leaving it for, they say in the instructions 24 hours, but I like to go 48 to 72. I like to leave it for about 3 days, 2 to 3 days before I bake it. So you want to set it by leaving it, and then you want to bake it. Once you've baked it, then it's on there. Okay. The alcohol won't take it off. But while it's like this, until it's baked, you can take it off with the alcohol. Now, let's say that if you look at, you see that blue lid, how there are some brush marks in it? If you want to get the brush marks out, there's gloss medium. There's both the gloss medium and is there a matte medium? There might be, but I don't think I have one here. There's gloss. Gloss, gloss, gloss. I'm looking to see if I have a matte medium. I don't believe, I just have the gloss medium. Okay. I'm not sure if there is a matte medium or not with this line, but there is a gloss medium. So if I want to get rid of those brush lines on there, I'm just going to coat it with a layer of the gloss medium. Whoop. See if I can get her open. Oh, first I want to get that nice and mixed. And let me use my stick and be sure that everything is well mixed there. Cool, like that. Okay, so I've got my glossy medium here. And let's use, we need another brush, of course. I use a lot of brushes when I do this process because, geez, I'm just, for all the different colors, you see I have one brush per color here. Okay, so I'm actually going to just take it right from here. I have a little brush with a flat top to it. And then I'm just gonna brush on the gloss. And that is going to help. The gloss medium, like the thinner, is much more fluid and it should help me to get a nice smooth finish without having brush marks. So it should somewhat fill in those brush marks. Okay. And sometimes you have to do 2 coats, okay, of the gloss medium. It depends on how much texture is underneath it. Okay, I'll just leave that for a moment. Let's see, would the process work on antique dinnerware that has crazing to turn into an art project? Stay home to shop. Um, Excellent question, and I'll show you an example of it right here. And that is, this is an antique teapot. I don't think you were here earlier. This is a teapot that I got from my local uh, thrift shop. Do you see the crazing on there? There's a ton of crazing on here. And I painted the whole thing and I put it in the oven. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the teapot itself was sound. So I was able to, when you bake it, you don't want to take this piece and put it in a hot oven. You want to, because you're going to paint it, let it set. I like to let it set for 3 days, but the instructions are 24 hours. I don't think 24 hours is long enough because where I live in Florida, it's very humid. So it takes extra time. Okay. So I leave it for 3 days. So I left this design for 3 days to sit. And then I take it and put it in a cold oven. And then depending on the instructions are going to tell you what temperature to bake it at. This says 150 degrees Celsius for 35 minutes. So I don't know what 150 degrees Celsius is, but I think it's somewhere around 275, 325, something like that. But you can look it up. And then, so cold oven, bringing the oven to temperature with this in it. Let it bake for the 35 minutes once it's on temperature, and then turn the oven off and leave this sitting in the oven until it's fully cooled. Then you can pull it out. And then this becomes dishwasher safe. But I love my designs so much that I won't put them through the dishwasher, but you can. And then this also has crazing all over it, the lid that goes with it. I don't know if you can see the crazing there, but yeah, I painted the whole set just like that, even with the crazing. So yes, you absolutely can take antique pieces and do that. And you might not have been here earlier, stay home to shop, but I showed these are pineapples. I think that's what they are, pineapples. And these are old chalkware. Oh, thank you. Stay home to shop said, looks fantastic. These are chalkware salt and pepper shakers, but they have little nicks in them. They're little spots where the yellow, in this case, has worn off. Now, this is a semi gloss. So I would take a little bit of the gloss, a little bit of the matte, and I would mix it in with some of the glossy yellow. You see that? So these look like they're kind of in between, like they might need just a touch of like this green or something to turn it into this kind of a green yellow. But anyway, I'm good at color matching, so that's what I would do. I would mix my colors until they matched what was here, and then I would paint the little spots that are messed up, and then I would take the bottoms out. So in this case, it's a cork, but sometimes it's those little rubber or plastic stoppers. I would take the stoppers out, and then I would bake these in the oven. Don't put them in the toaster oven. Okay, that is a tip. Toaster ovens come up to temperature very quickly and off temperature very quickly. And so they're not really suitable for this kind of baking for this product. I would suggest that you use a home oven, a bigger oven that takes longer to get up to temperature, but it'll keep a consistent temperature for longer better, okay? But that's how I would take these old chalkware pieces and repair them, and then I can resell them as repaired, and then they'll be in perfect condition. So I buy things like this that are not in perfect condition, or that are something like this, which I'm like, oh, that is so cool, right? I can paint that. And then I modernize it. Ooh, baby. I have all kinds of things. I have a whole project set up, here in my house where I have a whole bunch of items that I need to work on. Okay, so if these brushes get like super dirty and the water won't take it off, you know what to do. Pour a little bit of alcohol into a cup and just stick them in the cup and let the alcohol eat away at it, and then they'll be able to be cleaned with soap and water. Okay, so it looks like this part is dry and this part is drying. There's a little bit of brush strokes left on the lid on the top here. So I will just use that clear gloss one more time. But let's go ahead and um, use the sponge. So if I have a sponge here, the first thing that I do is dunk the sponge in water. Ooh, here's one that's easier. So I'll take the sponge and I'll just dunk it in water. This is just, use a cheap cellulose sponge, okay, where you get like 4 for $1. Okay, so I put some water in it, and now I'm squeezing out as much water as I can. I really want as much water out of there as possible. Okay, so now let's put, what color? There's some like gorgeous greens in here that I just think are so cool. Let me, well, I've got my setup right here with my colors in it, right? Ooh, there's a taupe. Let me see. I'm looking for, so this doesn't look like turquoise here, but it is turquoise. There's turquoise. What do you think? Maybe turquoise. Um, this malachite green is beautiful. And this bronze, no, I don't like the bronze. Okay, choices, right? Choices. We sit here and play with the choices. So one of the two of these, let me see. This one, I'm gonna mix it. Come on. Now I can feel that this is thick as I'm mixing it. I can feel, I'm like, ooh, okay, you're beginning. That's because I'm down near the end and it's beginning to get thick. So what I'm going to do is pour some thinner in it. That's why I always have lots of thinner. I actually have 3 thinners here. This is one of my 3. And I'm going to pour some thinner in there and then remix it. So don't use water, use thinner. Okay, you can use a little bit of water, but my recommendation is get yourself a bunch of thinner. And it's really better to use the thinner to thin the paints with, because then that way they will set properly. And when you bake them, they'll stay where you put them. Okay, here we go. Oh, pretty. So this malachite is a shimmer color, I believe. Oh, no, it's not a shimmer color. Okay, so that's kind of a green, interesting green. Let's set this one aside. The reason that you can't just shake these to mix them is they're a little too thick to take the shape. Okay, you kind of have to you're gonna have to use a stick and blend them. Okay, let's take that and go into the turquoise. Let's see what we have for the turquoise. Now the color is all separated and it's super thick right now. So this, I'm definitely gonna have to add thinner to it. So where did I put my thinner? Definitely gonna have to add thinner. And if you don't want to add as much thinner as it's going to take to do the whole bottle, just put a little bit out on your plate and then mix it with thinner on your plate. If you don't want to thin the whole bottle at one time. Okay. Come on, turquoise. It looks like I added together two turquoises because it's almost full, but it's also very thick. Okay. I really like the turquoise. I think I'll use the turquoise. So let's put a little bit of turquoise out. I can see it's like getting it's getting very sort of stringy. So I know that it's too thick. Right. So before I close these, I generally, if I've gotten it dirty, like this one, I got a whole bunch around here. So I'm gonna take the paper towel and I'm gonna go around the edges like this because I want to get that cleaned up before I put the lid back on. Otherwise, you know what happens, right? You can't get the lid on. Now, if you have trouble in your area, it depends on the humidity and the temperature. If you want to be sure you can get that back off after you wipe it, just take some Vaseline like it is, put that on your fingers and put it right around the bottle like this. This you can do with any of your paints. I do it with my acrylic paints. So I have a bunch of these little Vaseline jars all over my studio because I want to be sure I can get these open easily in the future. Bada bing, bada boom. Now that will open like a dream the next time I want to open it. Right? Fab. Okay. And I'm getting paint all over me, but that's normal, right? Now what I'm going to do is pour a little bit of thinner on my plate here, just a tiny bit to go with that turquoise. Eek. Okay. And let's mix it in there because the turquoise is a little bit thick. So I need to thin it down just a little bit. Okay. Beautiful color. Beautiful. The turquoise is gorgeous. And then let's take the sponge. Now I'm just going to use the edge of the sponge right now. And then this is where you can do a sponge effect. So y'all have probably seen what's called spongeware, right? If you're on Whatnot, you've seen spongeware. And this is how you can get a similar effect to that. It depends on the sponge you're using, right? How much of the effect you're going to get. Do you see that? It's so fun. So fun, so fun. So I can go around here and get that sponge effect. So you do want your sponge to just be damp when you're picking this up, and that really helps. Oh my goodness. That is so cool. If I do say so myself. Here we go. So let's get it down here. The trick with sponging is you don't want to go back over your areas too much because then you're going to lose the sponge effect, which I did right there. But of course, if I don't like it, I can take it all off and start all over again just by using alcohol. Okay, get the last of it here. Meet it up right here. How fun is that? Now, when I do this sponging, I'll likely do a second coat around so I can get it a little more even because you see how some of it is dark and some of it is light here, or not. It depends on, the effect that you want. There we go. Oh, I love that sponged edge. I think it's so cool. Okay, let's go like this. And so, like I said, you can even use the sponging with a pearlescent color or a white and get fog or get the spray on a wave. It works great. And you can buy different types of sponges that have more holes that are further apart, a micro sponge where they're super close together, like that. You do want to make sure that you throw this when you're done with the sponge, that you throw it in the water pretty quick, like, I'm getting more paint on me. Come on now. Let's get some of this off of here, bring it around there. So it helps if you have a way to hold on to it like this, onto the lid. Okay, there we go. That's kind of fun. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, what do we have? We have 2 coats of the baby blue underneath there. And then we have the 1 coat so far of our sponge turquoise. We have 3 coats of the sapphire and 1 coat of clear on top of the sapphire. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to, for right now, throw it inside my cup. Bloop, there we go, to keep it moist. And the the top of the lid is almost completely smooth, but I'm going to bring it up. There's a little bit there of the brush stroke still, but I can put another layer of the gloss on there and that will take care of that. Where's my little gloss brush? There's my little brush that I used for gloss. I had stuck it in the water, so I'm going to make sure I get most of the water out of the top there of the brush. Let's take the glossy medium, do 1 more coat, go in the opposite direction. I'm looking at it right now. I can see brush strokes going this way across that. So I'm going to do brush strokes going the opposite direction, and that should help to finish up, get rid of those brush marks, just using this gloss medium. Okay. So if I put it on relatively thickly, it should level out. And hopefully that will level the top so there's not a whole bunch of brush strokes on there. But since I'm doing something um, by hand, I don't mind if there are brush strokes, but just know you can keep using the glossy medium or put a little bit of thinner in with the glossy medium to get it to level a little bit more. Okay. So I'm just going to dunk that back in the water and let that. But those are a couple of the techniques there. And now let's go to that mug that I was working on so we can do some more fun things with that. We'll just, you know what? I'm going to hit that with the heat gun. So that very top, we have 3 coats of sapphire, which was this color right here, and 2 coats of gloss, right? And on the base, we have 2 coats of that baby blue. and one coat of sponge finish. Oh, that is so fun. It's so pretty. And of course, I would go through and I would probably paint all of this. Lovely. Okay, so this one, actually, I'm looking at this on the inside of this mug, and I can see that I've been using it for like pens and pencils and stuff down in there, but that's okay. Now, before I take this tape off, to make it easier to take the tape off, I am going to warm it. So if you ever are having trouble with getting tape off, just warm the tape and that will help you to remove the tape, okay? So I'm just gonna warm this, warm the tape, warm the tape. And have that help me get it off of there. Oops, I need my two hands here. So this little bit is warmed. Now I'm gonna pull it away from this edge so that hopefully I get a clean edge and I don't get any, if I tear it toward the middle there, what can happen is it can pull a little bit and then you end up with a jagged edge. And I don't want that. I want a nice clean edge. Yahoo! Got a nice clean edge there. Oh my gosh, life is good. Let's warm some more of it. Oh, I can see I need to do this one next because of the way they're over top of each other. So you warm the tape like that. What kind of paint? Hey there, Sunflower 085 over on Whatnot. We are using the Pebeo Porcelain 150. So this is tape that, or it's paint that works on porcelain like this. I showed earlier, don't use it on Corelle, this kind of Corelle, because this is borosilicate glass. It looks like ceramic, but it's not, okay? Don't use it on that, but use it on any of your ceramics. Like this is just a regular ceramic sugar bowl. And so this is what one of the discovery sets looks like. It says Pebeo Porcelain 150. And there will be links on that I'll put in the description of the YouTube video after the workshop is over. I go back and I add those links for you if you want to find out where to get the paint. Okay, again, this is warmed and I'm pulling it away from the edge there. Uh-oh, some of it didn't want to come up. That's okay. I will get it. I'll get it another way. Okay, get that off of there. I'm gonna get my blade. Where did I put my blade? Here it is. Eek, there's my blade. And we're gonna come in here and we're gonna pull off that tape so we get a nice clean edge, right? Come on, tape, you can do it, right? Because if I use the blade, it doesn't hurt the ceramic at all, but I can use it on both the paint and on the tape. Okay, there we go. And let's pull that up. And again, I'm pulling it away from where the paint is, pulling it in the other direction. Ah, okay. It doesn't want to cooperate, but like I said, I can just take this and I can pull it away. There it goes. Now we got it. Now we got it. There you go. Nice clean edge. So thank you, Helix Blade. Any kind of X-Acto knife will work. Oh, you're welcome. I see Sunflower said, thank you. Okay. What are we gonna do? We're gonna heat the tape. Heat the tape again. So we want that tape to be warm in order to get easily pull it off. So we're working with porcelain paints, and I like to use a heat gun to just set each layer as I'm going. It's not a full set. The full set is when you let it rest. You let it rest for, I like to do it 2 days, 2 to 3 days, and then I put it in the oven. according to the instructions on the paint. So I'm pulling it away from where the edge is. Nice. Oh, I see little tiny areas where the paint crept underneath, but we're gonna fix that. Easy peasy. Easy peasy to fix that. One more. So this is how I sort of get myself a dramatic little background that I can work on, right? Because yes, you can buy mugs like this. This was just a plain black mug. And then, oh, I even signed it on the bottom there with these paints. And so I put the paints on the dramatic background. But if you don't have a dramatic background, just paint yourself a dramatic background. Okay, like that. Let's get this tape off. And there we go. Nice. Do not worry if it's not perfect. We are going to perfect it here in just a moment. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Now, what do you see? What do you see? You see a little bit of paint that got underneath there. Until you've put it in the oven to set it, you can just scrape it off. So that's what I'm doing. I'm coming in with my little blade and I am just scraping that little bit off there until I get it where I need it to be. Okay. So that's how I perfect it, because using the blade on this ceramic doesn't hurt the ceramic at all, right? Doesn't hurt it. So I'm able to take those little bitty bits that were kind of over the edge there, and I can just pull them right off. Woo! Across the top, do you see little areas here that bled over the edge? So I'm just cleaning them off with my X-Acto knife, or in this case, Helix knife. There we go. Just run it along the edge there. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to things like this. And I'm like, no, it has to be perfect. But with the Helix, I can just come in and make it perfect. Nice. And then there are these two edges right here. So let's get those. And then we're going to use some of the other tools, the tube. I'm going to show you how I put like some of those trees on here using the tubes. Okay, cool. If you're on Whatnot, you can always go into the buy now area of my store and type in projects. And there is a project for how to do a mug like this. So it gives you a lot of the tips that I've been telling you this evening are on that project. Okay, just a little bit more perfection. Nice. Okay, awesome. Ah, isn't that awesome? Fantastic. So now I've got a beautiful area of paint that I can go back over top of, create some drama. So oh, I'm going to show you how to, oh, you know what? These brushes are getting pretty grody. Let me put them into the water there. Once this dries, I just throw it away. Okay. That's why I use a disposable plate like that. So I'm going to show you how to use these. These are the outliners, they call them. And they come with there's already a hole in the tip of the nozzle. Okay. And they come sealed. I don't know if you can see that, but it is sealed right there, sealed right over. And so that they're fresh. Now, they can get hard if they've been frozen. So if you live up north and you get one and you squeeze on it and it feels hard, don't buy it. Okay. Buy one that is soft. What that means is that it got frozen and it turned solid. So you don't want it if it's been frozen, okay? And that it's a fact of life. It happens, right? When you live up north, that they get frozen. So this one, it's sealed and it's nice and malleable, the metal here. So it is good to go. I'm going to show you how to open it. I'm going to take this black top and unscrew. So this is the nozzle and the black top, right? I'm going to unscrew it, take this side of the top, put it in there, and you can puncture it. Now, if you have a little bit of trouble with that force puncturing it, you can put the top on the table like this and hold it in place and then turn this over on top of it, and being way down here near the nozzle, near the top of it, you push it down and it just went click. So now it's open. Okay, easy peasy. Because I know sometimes people are like, how the heck do you open those things? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's super easy. You just have to know to use the top here to do it. So I'm wiping that off. Let me get another plate so you can see. So this already has a hole in it. You don't have to cut it. What that means is I can do really awesome detail work. So I'm squeezing it from the bottom. I can see it coming up into the tube there. Okay, here you go. Yeet. So you see that really thin line? That's if you use the top the way it comes right on there. Now, there's a little step down mark. Some people like thicker lines, so you can cut it right at that step and it will give you a thicker line, okay? So let me do some more squeezing here so you get some more lines. Um, this one feels like it needs the top cut just a little bit. There we go. I want to make the hole just a little bit bigger. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Now it's coming out. See? It's coming out a little bit thicker, a little bit smoother. And let me put the lid back on there. Now, one of my favorite colors for drama is this copper. So let's see if the copper is open or not. Yes. You see how there's all that paint there? So the copper's already open, which tells me this lid, this top is probably it's probably not going to come out. So I take my needle tool. Have y'all ever seen one of these? A needle tool, and I'm going to go right up the center there. Ah, you see there? Pushed a bunch of it out. So let's do this. Clean the needle tool off and put this back on here, and let's see if we can get some paint out. Yes. You see that? Lovely. Lovely, lovely. I love this copper color. So let me show you on here. This is copper, this is gold. You see that difference there? So let's do some of the copper first. I'm going to do a tree on here. Now remember, this is a coffee mug or a tea mug. Um, I'm right-handed, so it would be okay since I would be drinking from this side. It would be okay if I put paint up here near where a mouse would go, but I try to paint my mugs so that they work for both right-handers and left-handers. So I make sure not to put any paint in this area where you're going to be drinking from and your teeth are going to be touching that, okay? Because you don't want any of this to chip up into your mouth. No, it is non-toxic, but still you don't want that. So I'm going to keep my design in this area and maybe off this side and this side. So let's just do kind of like I did there. I'm going to do a tree branch. Now let's do the base of the tree. So I'm just sort of going to do base to the tree here. Isn't this cool? So I'm just sort of doing a design like that. And then I'm going to do a little bit more here and kind of meet up with that. right? I'm just doing sort of a base of a tree like this. You're probably looking and going, that does not look like a tree. But once you put the flowers and things on it, then it'll look more like a tree. Okay, so that's the copper color. And I had shown earlier that these come in many different colors for porcelain. So there's actually a black one. There's this green, is a green, a bronze, it's called bronze color. There's this bright blue. There's a red, a pink. I don't have the red. There's this sort of yellow, like a greeny yellow. So there are many different colors besides the metallics. There's a silver, a copper, and a gold as well. So at this point, then I want to let me cut a little bit more of this off the gold. There we go. The gold looks a little bit thick right now. Let's see, I'm massaging this a little bit. Yeah, this gold is a little bit thick. I've had it for a long time. Let me look at the other gold. Boop. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, this one's a little more flowy. Flowy, it'll flow a little bit more. And okay, so this one is flowing the way it's supposed to. This one is coming out and it's a little bit grainy. So this one is not good. Bloop. I'm going to put that aside. I want to use the one that flows out very easily. If you get one that's grainy like this one, just take it back to the store and tell them it's not right because it's supposed to flow like this. Okay. So now we're going to take and we're going to make some more branches off of here. So let me just squeeze it and do a little branch. We're going to do some flowers off the branches. Geek, fun, fun. I'm going to do another branch here and then a branch over here. You see how I'm just squeezing and moving at the same time? Now, you see how I'm squeezing in the middle? These are metal, and so they can burst right here on the edges. So it is important to, let me put the lid back on. It's important to make sure that you are keeping the tube, you're keeping the paint up inside the tube. So I would take this and turn it like this so that this part is full so I don't get a burst on the edge. If you keep squeezing it from the middle, you can end up with a stress fracture and have it go bleh and come out the side, okay? So just remember to keep turning the bottom of the tube out there. Let's see, I want another one to come over here. Something else to come over here. Now notice I'm not going up into this area because that's where potentially some teeth could go, right? But do you see the 3D effect that that gives? How cool is that, right? Awesome. Awesome. I love the 3D effect. Okay. So I'm just going to put a few on there to start. Now, I would normally leave this overnight to dry because as it dries, it's going to shrink a little bit. And that way I won't mess it up when I'm painting the flowers on. Do you see the flowers here? Right? So I would leave that to dry. And you can also, in these little areas where you created a little um, section that you went all the way around with the color, you could also come back and put a different color inside there too, and it will hold it inside. So for instance, if I wanted to take a pearlescent or uh, let's see, that is a gold one. But if I wanted to take a pearlescent color, like this is a pearlescent coral, I could take it and fill in that space that I made right there with a pearlescent color if I wanted to. Um, Now let me show you on one that I have already started. So this one, I already put some gold on there. I put the background. I showed earlier, if you weren't here, this is a U-line mug. So I covered where it says U-line with white and hit that with the heat gun to let it set. And then I came on with this, a couple of layers of orange. You see that over top of it? So I completely covered up where it said U-line. And now I've got a patch similar to this that I can work on. So let me set that one aside so it can dry. But this is already dry. And you see the little flowers there? So now I would take my plate and I could either use a marker and draw, paint in flowers. So there are all these different colors of markers. So again, you have the red, the blue, the green, all right? Or you can use, of course, now is there a white one in there? Where's the white one? Let's see if I have a white one available or not. It looks like I do not. I have silver. Okay, I will show you how to use the marker though in a moment. So I would take a little bit of the white. No, that's the thinner. Where's the white? This is the matte white that I had out earlier. And then there's gloss white. You see where it says gloss? So let's get this one open. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So what do I have to do first? I have to mix it, always mix it. So here is the white in gloss. So we've got the gloss finish white and we have the matte finish white. So there we go. We'll get some of the gloss white on there. Like that. Perfect. And then I'm going to use some of the pink. Where's my pink? There it is. This says, it says ruby red. Let me see. Okay. So see where this says scarlet red? It is more of a warm red. And then there's ruby red. And the ruby red is more of a blue red, meaning it looks a little more pink. And so that's what I did here. You see where I have a little bit of pink? I used the ruby red together with white to get the pink. So if you use scarlet red with white, you're going to get something that looks a little more orange. Okay. That's the difference between those two reds. All right. I'm making a mess here with my paper towels. Thanks for spending your Sunday evening with me. I appreciate you being here. Let's get a detail brush, a small brush. Boo, boo, boo. I only have a million of them. Okay, here's a nice small brush. I like to start out by getting it wet. And then let's pick up some of the color. So you're just going to paint, 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 paint. So here I'm doing like a 3 or a 4 petal flower. Ooh, there's a little hair on there. So I'm going to get the hair off first. Peek. Okay. So simple dimple to do flowers. You just create some petals like that. And then I'll come back in there once it's set, once it's a little bit dry. And I will put some pink on it, right? Super simple. So you're just going to paint with these like you would paint normally in terms of creating your design. I'm gonna put something like that. We'll do another one out here. So I'm doing a layer on top of other layers that have already set. I could turn this over. I could put color right on here. So let me show you how I would do that. I love using a Q-tip. So let's take I like to make dots with Q-tips, but I also like to make dots with dot tools. So let me show you with a Q-tip. So I just dip it into the white like that, a little bit, get it on the end of the Q-tip, and then bam. Isn't that fun? You can do little dots like this. Hee hee. I always like to put some sort of decoration on the handle. So let's see here. You could even make them like compound dots, meaning I could do the dots with the white and then come back and then put a dot of orange or pink in between there. You don't have to have fancy tools. You can do it just with super simple tools, right? There you go, like that. Or I can use the dot tools. So are you all familiar with little dot tools? It's what nail techs use when the nail techs are doing, they're working on your nails. They have a small area to work from, right? So this is called a stylus, and the stylus has different size balls on it. So can you see the little balls on the end? This has a big ball, bigger ball and a smaller ball. So you want to pick up your color on the end of the stylus, on the end of the ball like that. And then you can bring these in. Let me do a dot here and a dot. This is how people do dot art, is they use the styluses. And the styluses, like, look at this stylus with a big ball, right? So you can get different size balls there. So here we're going to put one right there and another one right here. So you can do all different kinds of designs with these. It wasn't big enough, so I'm going to go back in there. So this is one that I did with all dot tools like this, except for this line right here that I drew and this other line right here. I use the a brush to do those lines, but everything else here, all the dots, I use the dot tools. Exactly what I'm showing you. Now you see these little ones right here with the line on it? All I did, okay, I need a little bit bigger one than this because you need to have plenty of paint on there in order to do that. So let's use a bigger one. Let's try this one right here. So I'm gonna get my paint on there. Yee! And let's do it over here. I'm gonna put my paint on and then I'm gonna draw it out. Let me put my paint on and then, see, this one's so big, I don't have that nice tail on the end. Let me get a smaller one. See if I can get a tail for you. Doo, doo, doo. Let's use, what do we have on there? This is a pretty good size one here. Let's try that and see if I can get the tail. Okay. Because these have that was a big ball, so it's giving me a thick tail. Get this one. There. So now I have a more pointy, I used a little bit smaller one and I was able to get more of a pointy tip right there. So that's what I did here with these to get those pointy tips. Okay, let me see here. Now the white, I can see that I must have touched the white because I made a mess right there. So what am I gonna do while it's still wet? I'm gonna grab one of my little brushes and see if I'm making a mess everywhere here now. That's why I tend to work in one area at a time, right? And this is why I also like, for instance, for the orange here, I like to actually bake the orange if I'm gonna do something on top. That way, even if I have to come on with alcohol to clean up a mistake because it's dry already, then I won't lift the orange underneath, right? Because until it's been baked, you can, there I am leaning on it, you can lift up this paint with alcohol. But once it's been baked, the alcohol won't work anymore to lift it up. So let's get this off of here where I made a mistake. Fortunately, it was still soon enough after having made the mistake that I could use water to lift it with. Okay. So I'm just cleaning this up. There we go. Cleaned up, cleaned up. Yay. Ah, look, I'm just making a mess. Let me grab another paper towel. Now, I'm not worried about the mistakes that I made on this side over here, or the fact that I put these over here, because why? I'm going to take a little bit of alcohol. Where's my little cup of alcohol? Ooh, did I spill it? Yeah, I did. Almost, almost. Alcohol. And I'm just going to go over them with alcohol, right? Because they haven't been baked. Alcohol. Gone. Just like that. Okay. Ready for me to put something else right there, right? Isn't that awesome? It's awesome. Okay. And then I need to clean this area up where I made a mess so that I could go back and fix that. Lovely. Ta-da. I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that I got my fingers in there, because I'm going to put a little bit of pink out here. I'm going to make some pink, and I'll just put pink over top of that, right? When I'm doing the flowers. So let me just take a tiny bit of pink. What do I need to do? I need to mix. Make sure you mix the color. And I only need a tiny bit of this red. So I'm actually just going to use what's on the stick here. I just need a little bit to make my pink, don't I? And a little bit of white. There we go. I got pink with just this little bit right here. Duke. Okay. Because these reds are very powerful colors. So I only needed a tiny bit to mix in with the white in order to get a pink. Just like that. See, and there's even more on there. If I want to pull more red, I can just pull more red off of there too. Get like a dark pink if I want to. And then I'm just going to come in here. You see how I have a second layer, which is pink. Oh, just put the pink right on top like that. Just do that. There we go. Because I have the orange underneath, it helps to have the white there, so the pink will show up, because otherwise the pink really doesn't show up on the orange, but it does show up on the white on the background. So that's how you can layer those. All right. Okay. So that is, I need to show you how to use the markers. That's how we used the different colors of paint, and how we use the squeezies. Where did I put the squeezies? I don't know. I must have put them away. Here it is. Well, something like that. We use the outliners, the squeeze outliners. Now let's do a marker. So um, if you want to do a lot of detail work with your marker, you want to draw a lot, you're going to need to put a coat of gloss down first, okay? So I mentioned this earlier, but you want a coat of glossy medium first, okay? Because I can use a marker and put it on here, but it's not going to stick. It's going to come off with dishwasher use, unless I either coat it with glossy medium or I put a layer glossy medium down first. So what I like to do is I like to put a coat of glossy medium down, and then I like to do my marker, and then I like to put another coat of glossy over top. So just for right now, I'm just going to put some glossy in there. So I'm just putting it on thin. So when it dries, you won't even know that it's there, even though it looks a little bit yellow in here, right? But if you put on a thin coat, you're not even going to notice it. Okay, nice and thin and clear. There it is. Can you see that? So in the area where I want to put my marker, I want to put some gloss. The other option is to put down a color first and then put your marker over top of it. And that's what I did here. You see these leaves? That marker will stay in place through multiple, many years of dishwasher washing because I put it on top of some of the paint. So when you use the marker by itself, which I learned from my parents here, I made these mugs for my parents. And so this is just marker, these little dots, but you can see they're coming off. This is after 2 years of dishwasher use, okay? And here also where I wrote world's greatest grandma, it's parts of it are coming off because I did not coat it first with some of the plain gloss medium. Okay, so that's my recommendation, that you put down a layer of plain gloss medium first and then you write on top of it. Okay, or you put a color down first and then you do your drawing on top of the color. Now this area right here where it's just the marker, I'll come back with gloss and coat it with the gloss. Hey there, Critter Chops. Welcome in, welcome in. Thanks for the raid. Appreciate you. We're just finishing up on our workshop of painting on porcelain. So this is a porcelain mug that I did a painting on. We're talking about the Pebeo porcelain paints that you can use to paint right on porcelain items like this. And so right here where the marker is, I'm going to coat that with gloss medium before I set it and bake it. Okay, that way those lines won't come off in the dishwasher like the other ones did that I showed you. Okay, let's hit this. So I just have plain clear gloss on my my brush right here. Ah! I'm gonna put that in there. Let's hit that with the heat gun. So if you didn't know that it was painted with gloss, it looks almost exactly like the mug itself. It's just a clear coat, but it is adding the paint so that the markers will stick if you just want to do drawing. Can you see that? There's a tiny, tiny bit of brush marks. Other than that, though, you really can't even tell. Whew. Okay, so let's look at the markers. How do you use the markers? Let me get this out of here. So of course, if you're going to use marker on top of paint, you need to be sure that you let the paint sit for a while, or you can even set the paint and put it through the oven and then come and do your doodling on top. That's another way of doing it. And so here, I need to put that in there. The let's look at the, where did I put them? Where did I put them? Here they are. So this is your 0.7 millimeter top, and then this is your um, 1.2 millimeter. Now these are brand new, fresh. They do have a little, they have a little marble in them. So you do, they're pump markers. You need to shake them, right? And then this one as well. The difference is just what the tip is like. Now there's a wrap on there. So to unwrap it, you twist it. Super, super simple. Makes it so easy to get the wrapper off. People are like, oh my gosh, it took me forever to get the marker, the wrapper off. I know. The quick and easy way to do it is just to twist it. And then it's a lot easier to get it off. There we go. And then let's do this one right here. Twist and pull it off. Easy peasy. Here we are. And then this part down. There are some little um, perforations on there to help you. make it a little easier. But if you twist that top, and that's not just true of these Pebeo ones, it's any one that you get that has a wrapper on it, just twist that top, honey. Okay, let's pump, pump, pump to be sure that the paint gets nice and mixed. Now this is the top without any paint in it. So you see it comes, and this is just a felt tip, right? And so you have to pump it to get the paint to flow. And that's what we're doing. That's why you want to mix it first to be sure the paint is nice and fluid and ready to go down. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's beginning to fill the tip there. Awesome. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Phenomenal. Love it. And then this is the small tip. That's the 1.2 millimeters. This is the small one. This one's nylon. You see the little nylon tip there? So, and you can replace these too. I have lots of these markers. So I just, when I'm done with a marker, I take the tip out and I put it in water and clean it. So that way it is ready for the next time I'm ready to use it. I just leave it out, okay, after I'm done. And that way it doesn't get stuck in there. And you can do that with either one of these. You can pull the tip out and just clean it afterwards. So here, same thing. We're going to pump, 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 and then push it down and let the paint flow. And so this one is for doing more details. It's a much thinner. Here comes down into the nylon. And now this is a thinner. So let's say uh, you did a plate like this, but you wanted to put some, let's say you did a plate and it was instead of this guy, it was a portrait and you wanted to do some wisps of hair. You could use this little one to do the wisps of hair. Or let's say you're working on this and you want to get the parts of the beak in. You can use the marker to draw in the black parts of the beak and then go back and fill it with paint, right? That's what I love these markers for, is like doing my outlines and then filling it in with paint, or doing what I showed you a minute ago, leaves, something like that, leaves. And then, uh, so I put the leaf color in first and then I go on top of it. Let's see. See, that is amazing. It is ready to receive. So now I could do doodles on there with the markers. Let me put a little bit of, let me find a nice green, Amazonite green. Oh, no, I like this green. I love this green. Okay, let me just put on the other side. I'm gonna do one of these. Yes, I know I'm supposed to mix it, but in the essence of time. So I'm just gonna draw some leaves. This is just doing quickie. Normally I would do two coats, right? But I'm just going to do this so I can show you when it's somewhat dry how I go back with the marker on there. Nice. Is this color pretty? It's called malachite green. It's beautiful. Just do that. Okay. So that can start to dry while I show you doing some doodles, okay? And let me hit it with the heat gun. I think you know the process now if you've been with me, right? It's put the paint on, hit it with a heat gun, let it set up a little bit, cool down, and then you're ready to go back over it again. Okay, so we'll just leave that for a minute while I keep knocking over my alcohol. Okay, that's not alcohol to drink. If you haven't been here earlier, that's alcohol for cleaning this stuff, this paint. Okay, so let's take our marker. I really like using this 1.2. Yes, you can use the smaller one to do more detail, but I tend to do bolder designs. So let me try. not to get my hands on that any more than I just already did. Okay. Typical, right? Uh, so here, what did I do? I put a coat of the gloss medium, not the thinner, the gloss medium, which is here. See where it says glossy medium? So I put a very thin coat of the glossy medium and hit it with the heat gun and let it set, right? So now I have a nice base that I can work on. And then I've got the marker. I make sure that the paint is flowing, and then I can draw. What should I draw? Ooh, one of the things I like to draw is I love these. Remember, I don't want it too close up near my mouth, right? So you always, that's why I usually will use this tape, and I'll usually tape that area where you would normally put your mouth. And that way to remind me not to don't put paint up there, right? Then that way I can drink from it and my teeth won't chip anything there. Okay, that's why I like to put the paint on. I mean the tape on. Okay, so now I'm gonna do just a design. I'm gonna draw on here, and then we'll do a bigger one over here, like that. Ooh, how do you draw a bunny? How do you draw a bunny? It's like that time, right? Easter? It's very close to Easter. How do you draw a bunny? I guess you do like a little triangle nose here, and like this, and like this, and then you do an eye. Oh, this looks like a mean bunny, right? But then the bunny has to be fluffy. Then that way the bunny won't look mean. So let's get a this one, the skinny one going. And let's, so I always have either a palette, like a paper palette next to me, or the little plates next to me. And I make sure that the paint is flowing before I start working with it. So let's just do this. You see how this makes much smaller? See how it makes thinner lines like that? Ah, bunny. And if it stops flowing the way you want it to flow, then just go ahead and pump it a couple more times and it'll start to flow again, okay? There we go, like that. And then, so I have my little bunny there. Now, normally I would hit it with a heat gun like that. Oops, there we go. Right, because we want that to set into the paint that's already there, like that. And then you could take your brushes and you could start painting. See, where's the little one? Oh, that has green on it. We don't want green, do we? Yoo-hoo! Okay. Let's pick up some of this pink that was from earlier. Come on, pink, you can do it. Bloop. And then we'll put some pink in here, right? Just go like this. Hello, rabbit. Now, this is so much fun to do with your kids. These paints, these Porcelain 150 paints, are non-toxic. You know, of course, you don't want to be eating them, but they are non-toxic. So for my daughter, who was in AP art, she had a friend over one day, and I mean, she's 26 now, 25. So, you know, she's quite a bit older now. But when she was a kid in school in AP art, she had a friend over and she said, "Can we paint?" And I said, "Oh, do you want to paint a mug?" So she and her friend were like, "Yeah, let's paint a mug." So I gave them plain mugs like this, and I gave them the porcelain paints and some brushes, some water, a little bit of alcohol, right? If they make a mistake, they want to wipe it off with the alcohol, and let them go to town. And my daughter did a Starry Night, a Vincent van Gogh Starry Night mug. She still has it. She still has it because it was so cool. Her friend was like, man, she was feeling like she couldn't compete. And it's like, don't worry, just paint what you feel. This is supposed to be fun. Just paint what you want to paint. Don't worry about what, your neighbor over there is painting. Let's put some pink cheeks on here, right? Oh, yes, we have pink cheeks, little pink cheeks. But wouldn't this be a fun project with your kid? And then you let them sit for a couple of days and then you put them in the oven. And when they come out, they can actually use these mugs with parental supervision, of course. They can use the mugs. Maybe they put their pencils in them, or like my other one was, or maybe they drink from it if you're watching them, right? But super fun to use the markers and that. Now that was just painting with the marker and then coming back with a little more paint. But here, okay, these are pretty much dry. So normally what I like to do is I like to do a design and then come back later and use the markers to draw on top. So here we have some leaves. Let's go ahead and make sure the paint is flowing here. And then you can go inside or outside, it doesn't matter. So I can stay inside the leaf like this, like that. Or I can go outside the leaf like this. Like that. And then I like to draw the like a vine for a stem, like that. Maybe you're doing somebody's name. You can type what that looks like an L. So maybe let's say Lauren L. Right? You could customize these with somebody's name. Now, once that's dry, remember this marker I just put it in an area where I didn't have the gloss. So the gloss starts like halfway here. So what I would do with this is after the marker is dry, I would put a coat of gloss over top of it. And here I would put a coat of gloss over top of this to be sure that I locked in this marker. And then I can put it through the dishwasher a bunch of times. But isn't that fun how you can customize things like that? I just love it. You can hear from my giggles. I can't help it. I just love playing with these things. Okay, I'm looking to see if there are any questions. I don't see any questions over on YouTube. Let me see if I missed anything over here on Whatnot. Let's see, let's see. Critter Chops joined us. Okay. I answered the question about what kind of paint was I using. I'm using the Porcelain 150 from Pebeo, but it's not just the pots of paint. They're also mediums. So this is the thinner. This is the gloss medium. I recommend you get at least one of each of those as well. The paints come in your um, regular colors, your solid colors, but also some beautiful shimmer colors. So this one right here is an incredible pink shimmer. I didn't show you the shimmers earlier, so let me just pull some of this out. And the shimmers are gorgeous. This one has a blue undertone to it. This pink, they call the color shimmer fuchsia. But there's a nice line of shimmer colors, including a shimmer pearlescent. This is the pearl white. So of course you can mix the pearl white with any other color to get your own shimmer colors as well. Let me see. What if I put some berries on here? I'm going to use I'm just going to use a Q-tip. So I've got some of that pink there. This is the shimmer pink. It doesn't come off as well with those as it does when you use these. Where's the other one I had? Hmm, come on, let's get the right size. There it is. So this is a ball tool, right? Yeah, they come out better with the metal ones than with the what's it called? Than with the Q-tips, but you can use the Q-tips or you can use the end of a skewer. So like that. But this has a beautiful shimmer to it that is just fabulous. Let's see, maybe right here. Put a little bit of that right there in the eyes of the bunny. It's endless. I could just go on and on and on, but I'm not going to. Oh, I'm going to stop it right there. So that's it for the workshop portion of the show.